योगेन चित्तस्य पदेन वाचां मलं शरीरस्य च वैद्यकेन योपाकरोत्तं प्रवरं मुनीनां पतञ्जलिं प्राञ्जलिरानतोऽस्मि आबाहुपुरुषाकारं शङ्खचक्रासिधारिणं सहस्रशिरसं श्वेतं प्रणमामि पतञ्जलिं गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुर् गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः हरिः ओम्. So in the previous session, we had looked at Sutra 4.3, which was Nimittam Aprayojakaṃ Prakritīnām Varnabhedastu Tatah Kshetrikavat, where we had talked about how the bringing about of certain things, in the specific case, the Sharira, the Indriyas, etc., is triggered by dharma or dharma samskaras, but it happens because of the removals of the blockages, because the Prakriti has the ability to flow by itself and take any form and function. And there was an analogy drawn towards the activity of the farmer on how the farmer removes the mud walls, thereby allowing the water, similar to Prakriti, to flow across to the next level rather than carrying the water with his hands. And there was another illustration provided there, which gave us an idea of how certain transformations and parinamas like jatyantara parinama take place, and how a lot of the role of the dharma samskara, adharma samskara is more about removing the blockages rather than bringing about something that did not exist before. So continuing to the next sutra, Vyasa provides a preamble. He says, Yada tu yogi bahun kayan nirmimite tada kim ekam manaska aste bhavanti atha aneka manaska bhavanti iti. So this now moves on to a different question, because the previous one was about an inquisitivity of how certain transformations like the jatyantara parinama, where in the example of Nandishvara, the human turned into a divine bull associated with Shiva, and then Nahusha, who was a lord in the heavens or king in the heavens, turned into a snake because of his bad deeds. But how can this happen where the entire jati, the species, the category of the being changed? And that inquisitivity was addressed. But as that was being addressed along the way, important theoretical aspects, the Siddhanta, the functioning of the Prakriti, etc., was clarified. Similarly, you'll see a certain pattern where certain questions are asked, which are quite specific in nature, dealing with what we would think as miracles or magic or unbelievable things. But when that question is resolved, certain important principles and theoretical aspects are clarified. And therefore, the darshanas, they have to also satisfy certain well accepted stories in the Puranas and the Upanishads and explain how those fit into the framework of the darshana. And along the way, there are invaluable learnings and insights of the role of different tattvas and entities in this overall philosophical framework. So, an example then comes next, where the question that is put by Vyasa in introduction to Sutra 2.4.4, he says, Yada tu yogi bahun kayan nirmimite. When a yogi, he creates several different bodies, several shariras. So this is again well known in Puranic tales and elsewhere, where a yogi can create several different bodies and forms all at the same time. Tada, in that case, kim ekamanaskaste bhavanti, atha anekamanaska iti. So all of these, when the bodies come up, is it all with the same manas? Manas means the mind. Or is it anekamanaska? Are there multiple minds corresponding to the multiple bodies? So Vyasa provides the context for the sutra that is coming next, which sort of answers the question. So the Sutra 4.4 says, nirmāṇacittānyasmitāmātrāt. So the nirmāṇacittas, which refers to the chitta corresponding to the multiple bodies that are being created when the yogi takes several forms as part of the siddhi. Then says that there are multiple chittas and they come from where? Where do they arise from? Asmitāmātrāt, from the asmita. And here another text clarifies this. It says, Matra shabdena manovyāvrttihi sankalpamatrena manasaha nimittamatratvat. So we will see what this refers to by first looking at the very short bhashya on this. So Vyasa has a bhashya of one sentence. He says, Asmita matram chittakaranam upadaya nirmāṇacittāni karoti. So, this is Asmita matra. So as we have seen, the manas, which is the mind, and the indriyas, etc., evolve from the process of Sankhya Yoga, evolve from what is known as the ahankara tattva, sometimes referred to as asmita tattva also. So, Vyasa is saying, asmita matram chittakaranam upadaya. So by taking asmita or this ahankara tattva as the prakriti from which nirmāṇacittāni karoti. So the chittas that are to be associated with the multiple bodies are evolved from a common asmita tattva of the person or the yogi or the siddha who is generating these multiple minds and bodies. So indeed there are multiple minds, but like it said, matra shabdena manovyāvrttihi, which means those different minds or the chitta corresponding to the different bodies, they are generated from the single asmita tattva of the yogi who is creating the different forms. So it is not generated from the yogi's manas. Okay, it is one level below that. It is generated from the yogi's asmita tattva or the ahankara tattva. So all of them have a common asmita tattva, so a common tattva of I-ness. But they have their own separate distinct manas and indriyas. So that is what is to be understood. Tataha sacittani bhavanti. And therefore those different bodies are sacitta, means they contain a chitta. Because if you look at the spectrum of how this may come about, one might say that there is multiple bodies, but a single mind and indriya of the yogi who generated them. Okay, which means those bodies won't have any mind at all. And then the question of nirmāṇacitta does not arise. So that is not the case. Each body, for it to function, it should have its own set of indriyas and its own manas. On the other extreme, one may say that all of these different bodies and beings that are being brought about by the yogi or the siddha purusha, all of them have their own Atma or their own Purusha. Now that is also something that is not acceptable. Why? In one place it says, Tat kalpanayam gauravena ayuktatvat shruti virudhatvat cha. So why each of these created beings having their own Purusha or Atma is not acceptable? One, there is something called Gaurava. Gauravam means in a Shastra, if something could be explained in a simpler way, then the unnecessary, more complicated, or an explanation which has to involve more things that have to be brought in, that is Gauravam. If there is a simpler explanation, then the more explanation with the more Gauravam is to be discarded. So introducing a Purusha for each of these created bodies is unnecessary. The simpler explanation is to have that they have their manas and indriyas, but a common ahankara tattva. Therefore, that explanation is discarded. And there is one more very big reason to discard that explanation. It is Shruti Viruddhatvacha. So Shrutis refers to Vedas and Upanishads. They are revealed knowledge, not created knowledge by some thinker. They are something that are said to be revealed. So creating a new Purusha is against the Shruti, because Purushas are all Nitya. And therefore, each of those bodies having a separate Purusha is completely discarded. Also, each of them not having a manas at all, but merely bodies with a common indriya, that is also discarded. So what is the right explanation? The right explanation is there is a asmita of the yogi which evolves or which is made to evolve into by the samskaras and the siddhis into multiple manas and indriya sets corresponding to each of the beings or bodies being generated as part of the siddhi. So that is what is being explained here. nirmāṇacittānyasmitāmātrāt. Now, this is also there's a text, Yoga Siddhanta Chandrika, which then quotes from the Vayu Puranam, which shows quite interestingly that how this matches the way the Puranas have described it. So in the Purana it is said, Ekastu Prabhu-shaktya. So Ekastu Prabhu-shaktya vai Bahudha bhavati Ishvaraha Bhutva yasmattu Bahuda Bhavatyeka punastataha. So the Ishvara, or the accomplished yogi, through that Shakti, he can become multiple and again become one. So tasmat cha manaso bheda jayante chaita evahi ekadha sadvidha chaiva tridha cha bahudah punaha yogi ishvara sharirani karoti vikaroti cha. So multiple shariras or bodies are created and each of them have their own manas. So there is a manasa bhedaha. So the minds and the indriyas are different, but the aham tattva there, the sense of self, is single. So that is how this particular phenomenon is explained, along with a certain understanding that in this process of evolution, the yogi gets the ability to channelize how it evolves, and therefore the yogi can make the ahankara tattva evolve into multiple separate manas and indriyas that are operating autonomically, in the sense that the manas and the indriyas are operating on their own. However, there is a common sense of self behind them because of the common asmita tattva. So that is Sutra 4.4.
So it's a very interesting topic here. The previous sutra was trying to provide rationale and explanation with regards to jatyantara parinama. That is, in one incarnation itself, one transforms into another lifestyle, another life form. Like you heard the example of Nandi, a mortal becoming immortal bull, and Nahusha being king of the heavens, reeling down to infernal creature, or the creature of the infernal plane called uh, serpent. So, how this transformation takes place without transmigration, that is called Jatyantara Paranama. And if you recall, I had told you about Janmantara Paranama, which is our case. After death, we take another form of life. But here, in very same life, different forms of life are taken, and the rationale was explained. Similarly, yogi has a power to severally manifest. Nirmāṇacittānya. That's called nirmāṇacittānya. That means we cannot be severally existing. We have only one embodiment. We cannot be having several embodiments simultaneously. But yogi, having attained certain siddhis, and particularly sarva bhava adhishthātritvam, prakriti jaya, etc., he has this power to severally exist. And beautiful example comes in Srimad Bhagavatam of Saubhari Muni. There is an enchanting chapter called Saubhari Akhyānam in Srimad Bhagavatam. This Saubhari manifested in 50 forms, 50 embodiments simultaneously, because he had to marry 50 princes. And since he married 50 princes, he had to live with 50 wives simultaneously. So he became 50 Saubharis simultaneously. So that's a very interesting topic that comes in Srimad Bhagavatam. Another popular story we know about is Bhagwan Sri Krishna in Srimad Bhagavatam itself. Narada visits Sri Krishna. He knows that Sri Krishna has 16,000 wives. He says, how come that you are able to manage that? And Krishna teasingly says, well, you are unmarried. If you want, you can take one of them. But you can take one where I am not there. Go to any house of the 16,000 wives that I have. 16,108 precisely. And if you find where I am not there, you can get married there. So Narada proceeds on mission. And in one house he enters Krishna. He says, I woken up. Okay, he says, okay, I will come later. He goes to next house. He is taking his morning tea, coffee. Okay, he says, I will come later. He goes to another house. He's having the Slana Sadhya Annikam. He proceeds to next house. There, he is taking breakfast. So in every house, he finds Krishna. That means he says Krishna is simultaneously existing at one and the same time in so many houses. So that is the power of Ishvara, that he can have nirmāṇacittānya, he can have several manifestations simultaneously, he can severally exist at one and the same time. And similarly, it is power of a yogi, which Saubhari had out of his tapasya. So Saubhari was with 50 princes. And with 50 princes, he was differently interacting. So he had different sets of body and mind to be with 50 princes. But then, that is like satellites. There was one primary asmita, and from one primary asmita, he generated several sharirendriyas, manasendriyas, and he was able to severally be present, carrying out variegated activities at one and the same time, because he was in 50 bodies. So he could do 50 things at a time, 50 different things at a time, 50 different things at different place at a time. So he could be at 50 places at one and the same time. So that is possible. In the light of Siddhi that we saw, Sarvabhava Adhishtatruttvam and Pradhanajaya. Now, if such a Siddhi is attained, what should be impossible for such a yogi? The point is, the Sutra is explaining the Siddhi of the nature of nirmāṇakaya. Yogi can indeed create his own bodies severally. And then he can be doing 50 things at 50 places, 50 different things at 50 different places at one and the same time. So that's the example that we get in Srimad Bhagavatam called Saubharya Akhyānam. So it is fascinating for we people to think and imagine about it, but that can really happen. The point, what is being said in the sutra is that they are like satellite arrangements. So original Saubhari, or what can you call as genuine proto-Saubhari, is one. And then there are ditto emulations of 50 Saubharis who could stay with other 49 princes, because he had to marry 50 princes. He had to be with 50 princes at one and the same time. So what is being said is that asmita generates our embodiment. As the cosmology says, you heard about it, ahankar tattva gives rise to subsequent tattvas. And the subsequent tattvas give us embodiment. So there is only one asmita. Saubhari is one. So all the 49 Saubharis, whatever karma they might be performing, it would be debited or credited to Saubhari's account. That can be called as pradhānacitta. The others are nirmāṇacitta. Others are fabricated embodiments, fabricated body-mind complexes. They are fabricated. However, there is one proto. So, see, in Karma Siddhanta, yogi can carry out several karmas simultaneously to really manage his karma. See, we can be doing one thing at a time. We have set of 2 arms, set of 2 legs, set of 2 eyes. But imagine if there are satellite embodiments, the satellite embodiments can be in 50 places doing 50 different things, and therefore the karma is quickly managed. Otherwise, we can do one karma at a time. But now, 50 karmas at a time. However, all that will be in the accounts, debited or credited or posted to account of one original Saubhari. The others are not having their own karma accounts. It is all Saubhari accounts. So one of the Saubharis might be doing a virtuous act. Another Saubhari might be having enjoyment, merriment. So merriment has some kind of karma and it has a fruition, while virtuous karma, yajna, etc. has another set of fruition. So he can be carrying out several karmas at one and the same time. So, however, the karma is from one account of one Saubhari. The fabricated Saubharis don't have karma accounts. They don't have their independent karma accounts. But there is only one karma account. So therefore, nirmāṇacittānyasmitāmātrāt, the asmita, the source of embodiment, physical to mental, psycho-mental to physical, the source is asmita tattvam. So that is only one. But from one, 50 are generated. We are singularly generated by our samskars. When we take a birth, we take singular birth from our number of karmas. We have considered this karma and the birth, etc. in second chapter, Karma Siddhanta. Several karmas and one birth. Now here, several karmas and several births is possible because of nirmāṇakaya, because of the siddhi. So, that's what is being mentioned with reference to what about nirmāṇakaya. We understood something about jatyantar paranama, that obstacles are removed and therefore the changes which cannot be imagined can take place. So in case of nirmāṇakaya, there is a nirmāṇacitta. So one chitta gets divided into 50 chittas, and therefore it can be in 50 embodiments doing 50 different things at one and the same time. One can be sleeping and one can be active. However, the karmas carried out by such nirmāṇakaya are debited or credited to one account, not 50 accounts. There are no 50 accounts. There is only one account, which is the original Saubhari in the example that we have taken. So the source asmita is one. From source one asmita, there is a fragmentation, and then there are 50 or multiple embodiments created. And therefore, there will be different activities carried out, which the next sutra is going to mention. As I said, Krishna in one house is just gotten up, in another house taking his morning tea or coffee or milk, in next house gone for bath, in next house performing his morning rituals, in next house taking breakfast, in another house lunch, another house resting, afternoon nap, etc. So it was all Krishna, one Krishna, in several forms, in several activities, in several manifestations. But all were Krishnas. They were all Krishna. Similarly, yogi has original asmita. From original asmita, it gets fragmented into multiple. It can be 2, it can be 10, it can be 20. In case of Saubhari, it was 49. He became 50. One original, 49 fabricated. But the basic factor is that only there is one source asmita. This is the important thing. And therefore, they were all Saubharis. In case of Bhagwan Krishna, they were all Bhagwan Krishna. They were not pseudo Krishnas. They were all real Krishnas. So, divinity can severally manifest. Yogis also can severally manifest, which is called nirmāṇakaya, a kind of siddhi. It is because of sarva bhava adhisthātritvam and pradhana jaya. So, that is what is being said, that there are no 50 asmitas or multiple asmitas. There is only one proto, and then there are nirmāṇakaya. So that person, that yogi can carry out several karmas in several different places. If we are working in A location, we can't be working in B location simultaneously. We will have to work in B location at some other point in time. In different spaces, Saubhari could be working simultaneously. So that's a marvelous siddhi. However, it is what is mentioned is it is one asmita. Source is one. So we know something called as puppet show. One person is handling 10 puppets. So he pulls the strings, pulls and loosens, etc., etc. And that you can see in puppet show. So there is one asmita working for all the several asmitas. Could be 2, could be 10, could be 100. So that is what is being mentioned. Nirmāṇacittānyasmitāmātrāt. Chitta is the source of all manifestation. Everything comes from the asmita. From asmita you get the chitta. From chitta you get the mind, manobuddhi, ahankar. You get senses, you get bodies, limbs, etc., etc. So, clarification with regard to a siddhi such as nirmāṇakaya. How this is possible rationally is being mentioned here. Very interesting and fascinating. Okay.
Another thing just to bring to your notice, Guruji in his commentary for this sutra brings it to sort of a more normal plane where he draws a parallel by saying that the nirmāṇa citta is like the multiple thoughts that may arise. It's as though the mind, our mind, like a normal mind, while having a single source which is associated with the pure consciousness, splits into multiple minds and thoughts as per different moods and situations and so on. So he draws a parallel to help get this closer to our experience. And then he says that through yoga, one is able to discriminate between the original mind and its offshoots, the single mind and the multifaceted complex mind. So that is another very interesting insight that we can have as a parallel to keep in mind as we go through these set of sutras, so that we can then interpret or at least draw a parallel of these nirmāṇa citta to our own single citta, but multiple thoughts manifesting in a multifaceted manner while still having a single source. So just something to also keep in mind as we read through the explanations and talk through the explanations here. So now we go to Sutra 4.5, where further elaboration, clarification comes. pravṛttibhede prayojakaṃ cittamekamanekeṣām. So in the pravṛttibhede, pravritti here refers to vyapara, the different functioning existence. So the different chittas in the different nirmāṇakayaha. So the nirmāṇakayaha is a created, so to speak, sharira, body, which has, as we have seen, its own mind and indriyas. Each of them have a different vyapara, they have different functioning, different behaviors happening at different circumstances. So how is that happening? What is the prayojakaṃ there? What is bringing it about? Cittamekam. So one citta is doing that. So pravṛttibhede prayojakaṃ cittamekam anekeṣām. For with respect to the several chittas, there is one that is being sort of the prayojakaṃ, the one that is impelling all the others. So that is the sutra. The sutra is pravṛttibhede prayojakaṃ cittamekam anekeṣām. Now, this is, when elsewhere it is nicely described. Teshām anekeṣām chetasām pravṛttibhede vyapara nānātve ekam yoginah cittam prayojakaṃ prerakam adhisthātrutvena tenana bhinnamatattvam. So this is in the Rajamartanda Vritti, where it says that with respect to those various other cetasa, the mana indriya combinations, and their different vyaparas, their different behaviors and functioning, the one chitta belonging to the yogi, ekam yoginas chittam, that is the prayojakaṃ, that is that one that impels, one that motivates. So prayojakaṃ, prerakam. How does that happen? It says very nicely, adhisthātrutvena. It is the superintendingness of that one chitta that brings it about, and therefore tenana bhinnamatattvam. So they are, in the end, all are coherent, or they do not go completely against or completely different from what that yogi's chitta, whatever that chitta's abhipraya is. Abhipraya refers to, in a way, certain opinion, intention. So nirmāṇa cittas will not deviate significantly from that, the abhipraya, the intention of the yogi's chitta. Now we look at Vyasa's bhashya. It's again a single sentence. Vyasa says, Bahunam chittanam katham ekachittābhiprāya purassara pravrittihi iti sarvachittanam prayojakaṃ cittam ekam nirmimite tatha pravṛttibhedah. So it is essentially, Vyasa is elaborating. The same thing he says with respect to the several chittas. How come? Or what is the mechanism in that sense? How come? Eka chitta abhipraya purassara pravṛttihi. How is it that they are all in conjunction with the intention and purpose of one chitta? How does that happen? And that happens because for all those chitta, the prayojakaṃ, the impelling chitta, is a single one, ekam, which is the one that brought them about. So therefore, there is a pravṛttibhede. There is a difference in the activities and the functioning, but the prayojakam is still one. So that is what is explained and clarified by this sutra 4.5.
So with nirmāṇakaya, why nirmāṇakaya is required? Why one has to be severally manifesting? As I said, in case of yogi, he can quickly rapidify the process of karma exhausting the karmas, because we have limited limbs. We can't do two things simultaneously. We can't do two things in two places simultaneously, because we have only one body, and therefore we have restriction in our karma management. So yogis can severally manifest and do this. So there will be pravṛttibhede. As we saw in the example, Krishna in the different houses was in different engagements. He was in different occupancy. So that's called pravṛttibhedam. Engaged in different activities. However, prayojakaṃ cittamekamanekeṣām. There is one single chitta which is governing or superintending, as you just now heard, the other nirmāṇakaya chitta. So when there is a nirmāṇakaya, there is nirmāṇacitta. And that's why they can be engaged in different activities, sleeping to woken up, to be here, to be there, and also there, to be walking, talking, to be engaging in several activities. However, the cittamekamanekeṣām, prayojakaṃ, the impelling chitta, is one. So it is one will which is going to work, and it will split into different 50 activities in case of 50 nirmāṇakaya. However, there is ekam chittam. That's why that chitta account is being managed. That chitta account is being handled. Other chittas, nirmāṇacittas, don't have their own accounts, because it's a split of one chitta into so many fragmentations. So, pravṛttibhede prayojakaṃ chittam ekam anekeṣām. Because the chitta is existing in all the other embodiments which are simultaneously existing as a part of nirmāṇakaya. But there is only one impelling chitta, controller, regulator chitta. The others are all working under its influence, under its diktats, under its will, volition, etc. So, that is what this sutra is mentioning, that it can be engaged in 50 different activities at one and the same time, but however, it is activity of one original chitta, one proto-chitta, one impelling chitta. That is clearly mentioned in this sutra. Okay.
Now we look at the next sutra, which is a very short sutra, but has quite a bit of insight coming in. So that is 4.6, which says tatra dhyānajamanāśayam. So this is very interesting, and this is where the Siddhanta is being established, even though it is going through the context of nirmāṇacitta. this is a broader point being made. It says tatra, in all of this, dhyānajam, the one that arises from the process of dhyana. Okay, that one is anāśayam. It does not have the karmāśaya, āśaya of klesha, karma, vasana, etc. It is only the dhyānajacitta, because in the first sutra of this chapter we had said, janmaushadhi mantra tapas samadhijaha siddhayaha. So the siddhis can come from various things, through birth, oshadhi, from certain herbs and such, from mantras, from tapa and from samadhi. So the one arising from dhyana and samadhi process, that is the one which is anāśayam, which is devoid of the karmāśaya. Karmāśaya includes klesha, karma, vasanas, etc. Which is then leading us to say that while siddhis are available through 5 means, as described in the first sutra, it is only the path of yoga and samadhi where the siddhis are such that they can lead to kaivalya. So the apavarga yogyata, kaivalya yogyata is available. The being fit for kaivalya or apavarga is only from the process, the yogic process of dhyana and samadhi. So elsewhere that is elaborated as tadevam uditeshu panchasu siddhachitteshu. So in this way, among the chittas arising from 5 possible means for siddhi, the 5 janma, aushadhi, mantra, tapa, etc. and samadhi that we had seen, all of these can lead to the siddhi of creating chittas. But out of these, apavarga bhagiyam chittam nirdhārayati. So here, Patanjali and Vyasa are now emphatically placing that even though siddhis can come from 5 ways, and the chittas get created as part of that, the apavarga bhagiyam chittam, the chitta that is suitable for apavarga process, for the kaivalya process or state, is only, which is that is suitable for that is being determined and established, nirdhārayati. So it is saying, and that is the one the sutra says is the dhyānajam, coming from the yogic process. So that is the sutra, and that is how all of this is getting related back to our topic of kaivalya. So it may look like, why are we talking about nirmāṇacitta and all those things if we have to learn about kaivalya? So in a certain way, 2-3 things are being addressed at the same time. Some of the so-called miraculous siddhis are being explained, but at the same time certain principles are being established. And here the key principle being established is, even though siddhis are available through different means, it is only the yogic process that has the power, the capability for the chitta to be such that it is apavarga bhagiyam, suitable for the state like kaivalya. So tatra dhyānajam anāśayam. Now let's look at Vyasa's bhashya. Panchavidam nirmāṇacittam janmaushadhi mantra tavas samadhijaha siddhayaha iti. So there are 5 ways in which this nirmāṇacitta can come, which takes us back to the first sutra, that it can come from janma, birth, oshadhi, the herbs and such, mantra, then tapa and samadhi. Then tatra yad eva dhyanajam chittam tad eva anāśayam tasya eva nasti āśayah rāgādi pravṛttibhede nāta punya pāpāvi sambandhah kshīna kleshatvat yoginah iti. So out of all of these, the one that arises from dhyana, only that is anāśayam, which means does not have a karmāśaya. Why? Because only in that case the āśaya coming from rāgādi pravritti, attachment, etc. does not exist. Rāgādi pravrittihi na ataha, and therefore punya pāpāvi sambandha also is not there, because there is no attachment, etc., which refers to attachment, hatred, raga, dvesha, etc. There is no tie. I mean, there is no relation to punya papa, punya and papa bhogas. Those are a consequence of meritorious deeds and otherwise coming from attachment to those. But if one is completely unattached, one transcends, as we have seen, the punya and papa cycle. So therefore, there is no punya papa abhisambandha. Why? Kshina kleshatvat. Because the kleshas, avidya, asmita, etc., the klesha themselves have become feeble and gone away, faded away. So kshina kleshatvad yoginaha. Who is kshina klesha? The yogi is. So the one who has the ability to bring about this siddhi through the yogic process, through dhyana, samadhi, etc., only in that case the nirmāṇacitta is such that it is anāśaya and therefore it is fit and it is on the path to kaivalya. Itareṣāṃ tu, in the other case, vidyate karmāśaya. The karmāśaya exists. So for the nirmāṇacitta and citta in general, coming from the siddhis attained from different paths like janma, oshadhi, mantra, tapa, in that case the karmāśaya still exists. So there is a slight deviation of topic that is coming in, but very beautifully threaded through the discussion of nirmāṇa sharira. This is where it is being established that the yogic path is the only one which creates a citta which is devoid of karmāśaya and therefore fit for kaivalya. And this also ties into some of the shlokas in the Bhagavad Gita or the mantras of Bhagavad Gita, where it says tyaktva karma phalas sangam nityatrupto nirāśrayah. So here we say when the karma phala sangha goes away, the attachment to the fruits of actions, one is nityatrupto, forever contented, and nirāśrayah, which means the karmāśaya, etc., does not exist. Karmani abhipravrittopi naiva kinchit karoti saha. Even though one is right in front of action and activities, yet he does not do anything, in the sense that whatever he does not reap any karmāśaya because of the non-attachment that is built into the yogic mind. Similarly, yasya naham krito bhavo buddhir yasya na lipyate hatvapi sa iman lokam na hanti na nibadhyate. So if one has also given up the doership and one whose buddhi is non-attached, even if he destroys and kills, it is as though he has not destroyed and why he is not bound. So this is the state of the yogi, which is a kshina klesha state. And therefore it is the giving up of attachment that is part of the yogic process very inherently, that brings about the suitability or the chitta which does not have a karmāśaya and therefore is fit for kaivalya. So similarly in the Kaivalya Upanishad it says na karmana na prajaya dhanena tyagena ekena amritatvamanashuh. So it is not through praja or the progeny, not through karma, not through wealth, etc., but only by giving up the attachment that one truly becomes immortal. So all of that ties into this understanding that siddhis may be available in different ways, but it is only the siddhis through yoga that brings the purity of the chitta, that is, does not have any karmāśayam. So that is the Sutra 4.6.
So a couple of important things to be noted in this sutra. Tatra dhyānajamanāśayam. The nirmāṇakaya, as the matter discussed here, if it is out of dhyānaja, samyamatmaka process, dhyānaja process, it is anāśayam. So there is no karmāśaya created. Whatever might be the act for laukika buddhi, somebody that yogi performing a virtuous act or vicious act, etc., for in our assessments, there is nothing like that. They are all barren karmas. But however, this siddhi can come about through other gates. such as janma, aushadhi, mantra, tapa, etc. So there are 5 corridors to get the siddhis, which is mentioned in the first sutra of the Kaivalya. Janma, aushadhi, mantra, tapa, samadhija, siddhayaha. Now this nirmāṇakaya, if it is attained through other means, which was the case of Saubhari. Saubhari got this power of nirmāṇakaya by tapas. He was not a yogi. He did not get this power by yogic process. It was not dhyānaja. It was tapaja. It came out of tapas. Because he remained as a part of austerity, submerged in Yamuna for long time, performing the tapasya under waters. And therefore he acquired the power. Because as Patanjali also endorses, by tapas one can get this power. So Saubhari acquired this power out of tapa, tapasamarthyam. It was tapaja siddhi, born out of tapas. And therefore it was not anashaya, it was ashaya. Because Saubhari himself later confesses, he says, what have I done? I have added my karmas. Because he was seeking vairagya, and for vairagya he did some tapasya, and now that was all blown away. Because he remained with 50 princes. So he repents afterwards, and which he confesses in the same Saubhari Akhyan of Srimad Bhagavatam. So, while in case of Dhyānaja Nirmāṇakaya, it will be only to wipe out the karmas, not to add to karmas, but wipe out the karma. That's why I said karma management. So, if the yogi is taking several bodies, and that is out of Dhyānaja process, Dhyāna process, Samadhi process, it would be to wipe out certain duties, kartavya karmas, prarabdham. So, he can be exhausting the prarabdham by nirmāṇakaya. While those who get the same siddhi by mantra, by tapa, by aushadhi, or even by janmataha, they will be multiplying the karmas. While dhyānaja nirmāṇakaya is anāśayam. Another point to be noted, that many miracle men perform various miracles. Sometimes they proclaim that they are yogis, and therefore they perform these miracles. Or a layman thinks that the person is a yogi, and therefore he is able to perform miraculous things. So that person is not a yogi. As Patanjali tells us, that it can be out of tapas, out of mantra, out of aushadhi, out of janma, that siddhis can be coming. So we many times believe that such miracle men are yogis, or sometimes they themselves proclaim that they are yogis. Now that would be true. They may not be yogis. They are not yogis if they have attained out of other measures. Not being yogi, they get the powers which are identical to powers of a yogi, and therefore we mistake them that they are yogis, or they can have basis to project that they are yogis, and this happens in our mortal world. Miraculous things are performed, and then we think they are yogis. Miraculous things are performed, and they say they are yogis. They claim that they are yogis, but that is not true. That is not necessary. Without yoga, you can get the siddhis which yogis attain. So difference is that although they have the siddhi, they will be generating karmas. They will be multiplying the karmas. Whereas a yogi will be wiping out the karmas, or he doesn't perform, any karma is not performed, which is subject to fructification, because it is anashaya, so there is no vasana. Like in case of Krishna, He was doing several things, several activities in several houses, but being Ishvara, Klesha, Karma, Vipaka, Ashaye, Aparamrushtaha. He was untouched by all those. Although he did several things. For worldly people, he was doing some vice or virtue. Many times we also end up saying, oh, that was a mistake by Krishna, that was a mistake by Rama, he should not have done this, etc., etc. The Laukika Buddhi is incapable of assessing all that, but yet we assess. And many times we come out saying, Rama made a mistake, Krishna made a mistake, this was vice, this was adharma, etc., etc. But being Ishvara, Klesha Karma Vipaka Ashaya Aparamrushtaha. So in case of Krishna, although he was engaging in 50 different acts, of 1,000 different acts, they were not subjected to fructification. They were not subjected to karma siddhanta or karma ashaya. So is the case of a yogi. When it is dhyānaja, nirmāṇakaya, he need not be dreaded of adding to karmas. He can only wipe out the karmas. He won't add to karmas. He can wipe out the karmas. And if the yogis do that, take to nirmāṇakaya, it is to wipe out the karmas and not to add karmas. But someone like Saubhari added to karmas, and therefore he repented. Oh, what did I do? As one Saubhari, I would not have done so many things in my life. But becoming 50, I multiplied by 50 myself. And I added to my karma account, which is going to be unmanageable for me. Therefore, he gives a wonderful piece of advice that every yoga sadhaka should be looking into it and taking that wisdom that he gives. He says, please don't do such things. I have fallen into a trap by becoming 50. That was a trap. So he confesses that because he had that power out of tapas. So tapaja, nirmāṇakaya, will be prone to karma siddhanta, or will be vulnerable to karma siddhanta, or will be victim of karma siddhanta, karma phala, etc. But dhyānaja, no. So that's how we should also know that all miracle men are not yogis. All yogis may not perform miracles, and all miracle performing people may not be yogi. More often they are not. Even if they proclaim, they are not, because they are bound to karma siddhanta. The vasana is woven, like it happened to Saubhari. By becoming 50, he created an enormous mesh of vasanas with 50 princes. So that's a very important sutra, tatra dhyānajamanāśayam. Okay.
So let's stop for today and continue with the subsequent sutras in the next session. Let's recite the slokas on Guruji and stop for today. Vaijñānikam pravṛttibhede āsaneshu kalavidam योगाभ्यासे च तत्त्वज्ञं वन्देऽहं सुन्दरं गुरुं योगवृक्षो हि लोकेऽस्मिन् यत्प्रेरणेन वर्धितः योगाचार्यगुरो तुभ्यं सुन्दराय नमो नमः. Thank you.
Namaskar, all of you.